Kenya is 18 months away from its next general election. And the question that millions of Kenyans are quietly asking is, can opposition actually win in 2027? I'm going to run through the numbers, county by county, vote by vote, and what it shows may surprise you. In August 2022, William Ruto won the presidency by just 233,000 votes, a margin of about 1.6%. In any other country, that triggers talk of a rematch. In Kenya, it did exactly that. The opposition cried foul, the Supreme Court appealed the result, but the question never went away. What happens if a few things change in 2027? First, the voter base. Kenya had 22.1 million registered voters in 2022. Factors in death, the World Bank puts Kenya's crude death rate at 5.5%, thousand per year. That base shrinks slightly. Add new IEBC registrations, and we arrive at an estimated 21.7 million eligible voters heading into 2027. The numbers are similar. Geography is everything. Start with Ruto's fortress, the Rift Valley. In 2022, county after county here delivered extraordinary turnout figures. Bomet 80%, Kericho 79%, Baringo 78%, and Ruto's vote share in these countries ran in as high as 94%. This is his foundation. In our model, we ask a simple question: what if the extraordinary enthusiasm drops just slightly back to 70%? We actually have seen a lot of videos just based on what is coming from the ground that the electorate is not as enthusiastic as was in 2027. Secondly, there's been a lot of doubt cast on these numbers, these figures. In the other video, we just had a presentation which showed that there is possibility that the scale was tilted in his favor because there were no Azimio agents looking at what was happening. So it's a big conspiracy based on what some of the people inside Ruto's own circle have come out to say. So we're actually working with a conservative number of about 70% across for most of these constituencies or counties. Now, Central Kenya, Kiambu, Murang'a, Nyeri, Kirinyaga, Nyandarua, in 2022, all 5 counties went solidly for Ruto. Vote share between 70 and 76%. The historical Kikuyu calculation back the winner, secure benefits for the region, but the mood has shifted. The cost of living, the tax burden, the broken promises on development. In our scenario, Central Kenya flips, and we have seen a lot of the candidates who ran under UDA start to change and announce that they're not going to be seeking re-elections under the ticket. So we know that this tide has already arrived. Rift Valley turnout capped at 70%. Central Kenya flips, keeps everything else the same. 2022 vote shares, 2022 turnout in all other counties. The result, the opposition wins, not narrowly, by 2 million votes. 2.5 million votes almost. So 58% win in their favor. That is not a recount, that's a mandate. So our assumption is, and based on what we already know, is sometimes people are not essentially even voting for a candidate, but they're essentially voting for what they don't want to see. And here, it doesn't favor Ruto because of what's happening in the country. The education sector is broken, and the health sector is also broken. The 2 key major public services are not really working in his favor. And plus, a lot of things which have not worked out well and most of the citizens are not feeling the effect of what his government is doing. So in another analysis, we've actually just done that, and you can actually look up the channel to see for yourself. Here is the full regional picture. Ruto still dominates the Rift Valley, a 1.5 million net advantage. Eastern Kenya also leans his way, but slightly, but Central flips to give the opposition a 1.2 million swing. Nyanza delivers 1.6 million net votes. Western Coast and Nairobi all at the opposition column. The arithmetic is decisive. So what does the opposition actually need? Three things. One, Rift Valley turnout must not replicate 2022. Two, Central Kenya must move. That requires a compelling candidate and a clear economic message. 3. The existing opposition base in Nyanza, Western and Coast must hold firm. Nyanza alone delivers more net votes for opposition than the entire Rift Valley delivers for Ruto. Miss any one of these conditions and Ruto wins. So can the opposition win in 2027? The data says yes, if the condition aligns. The single biggest variable is Central Kenya, 5 counties, 3.5 million registered voters, a bloc that has historically voted together. If they move, the math produces a historical landslide. If they stay with Ruto, he holds. But this is highly unlikely based on what we have seen. The tide has really turned against him in this with this regard. So what Central Kenya? This is the story of the 2027 election. That is the analysis. All numbers sourced from IEBC voters, Register Equal Politics Kenya, and World Bank statistics. Nothing is certain in politics, but the data shows us what is possible. If you found this useful, subscribe and share it with a Kenyan who should see this. Drop your prediction in the comment who wins Kenya 2027. We'll be back with more data-driven analysis as we get closer to the election day.